are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back, the 250th episode here of The Issue podcast, and it's going to be a good one. A ton of NFL to get to. We had a little bit of a dip in production last week. We did not have a show this week. We are ramping things up. We have a ton to get to. We're going to open things with Tim's rant. This week, Chicago Bears, they're going to get the brunt of it, as they should. It looks it doesn't look fantastic as you thought it would early on in the season. It's just, everything looks difficult. The coaching is a problem. The quarterback play is a problem, but I think that's because of the coaching being a problem. So we'll get to that first. Hits and misses will follow it. And then to close out the first segment, we will have our top 10 NFL teams, a power ranking, just give you a gauge of where everybody's at in the league right now. And then we will get into the second segment and close the show with the Week 11 predictions and Week 11 bets on a budget, which, by the way, we are 64% on bets. How is that?
It's too good. It's too good. Look, I mean, and to be fair, the public in general is having a much better year than recent history, because and now we can get into this maybe a rant or a discussion for a different time. But as the league becomes more quarterback dependent, the gap between the haves and have-nots in the league becomes very, very apparent, and everybody else is locking in on quarterbacks, and you're able to spot, is that team and is that quarterback going to have any success, yes or no? And that's kind of where you find success in betting.
Yeah, that's where we've kind of put our chips throughout the years too, and this year it's really starting to pay off. I mean, 64%, that's nothing to play around with. But guys, we appreciate you listening, no matter how you found us, whether you are watching on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Prime Video, or listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and of course, the iHeartRadio app. We appreciate it. This is The Issue.
Yeah, no, I mean, you perfect intro, as always. I know you mentioned the Bears there. So I get fired up with the Bears take because I was very vocal that I thought the Bears could be very good. Because I think, and I still think, Caleb Williams is one of the better prospects that we've seen over the last decade, maybe even 2 decades. I seriously think he's that talented as a quarterback and as a prospect. But I feel like I'm watching Trump's campaign versus Kamala's. One of them is super functional, and one of them can't campaign their way out of a wet paper bag, as we saw with the results. And that's exactly what you're looking at with every other rookie quarterback, and then Caleb Williams. There's every other rookie quarterback. There's Drake May with Sean Payton, who will be a Hall of Famer and is doing a great job with that roster. They should have won on Sunday. Doing a fantastic job with the offensive skill piece they have. Hell, even the defense looks good since he's gotten there, and he's an offensive guy, right? So clearly something's working there. You're seeing Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury. There's clearly chemistry. They look fantastic. Jaden will most likely win Rookie of the Year, barring some unforeseen circumstance. He'll win Rookie of the Year, and he should. He's been fantastic. He's kind of who I thought Caleb would be. He's already probably a fringe top 10 quarterback, top 10 to 12 guy. That's what I thought Caleb would be year one. Clearly, Jaden's having a ton of success. Hell, even Drake May, we just saw him go on the same field as Caleb Williams. He looked like the better quarterback. He looked like the better quarterback. So we can sit here and nitpick Caleb, and he certainly has to play better. He's not played well. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, he's been fantastic, it's everybody else's fault. He hasn't been good. That is obvious to everybody that's watching the football games. But he's a rookie. Outside of like me and maybe Nick Wright, this is kind of what should be expected from rookies. Nobody really expected him to be great. Again, except for like maybe me. But we expected good. But he's been subpar. But this is kind of what most rookies look like, right? This is kind of what most rookies, this is kind of the trajectory. They go up for a couple games, and then they come back down. They'll go up, they'll come back down. And it is a roller coaster for most rookie quarterbacks. But to me, the issue is institutional in Chicago. This is not just a Caleb Williams problem. The Bears are either midseason or end of season going to fire Matt Eberflus and his staff. That to me is, it's almost obvious, it's clear. You could sign, seal, delivered. It's written in pen at this point. Which, for the record, in this spot, I agree with, right? If you're looking at this year and Matt Eberflus and that staff in a vacuum, absolutely they need to go. They have been probably the worst coaching staff in football. We could sit here and blame, you could throw out other guys, Brian Dable and the people in Carolina, Dave Canales. At least they have direction. At least we see them play hard. DJ Moore's walking off the field mid-play. So clearly this coaching staff should be gone. They're bad. Probably the worst coaching job so far this year. To me, it's right underneath the Brandon Staley debacle. In terms of the worst coaching jobs over the last, we'll call it 5 years, it would be like the Freddie Kitchens Browns, the Brandon Staley Chargers, and then this iteration of the Chicago Bears under Matt Eberflus. It's been an unmitigated disaster. But to be fair, the mistake hasn't been the performance over these past 3 weeks. That hasn't been the mistake. The mistake is you have to go back to when they knew they were getting the first overall pick, and you had the option to hire a new coach. You had the option to completely clean house. Hey, let's start fresh. We're getting a new quarterback. We have all these new pieces. We're going to bring in Keenan Allen, and let's give DJ Moore a fresh start. We're bringing in this tight end and that lineman, and we're going to draft a receiver. Let's get new. Let's get fresh life in this locker room. And listen to the names that were on the market. Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick, Ben Johnson, Cliff Kingsbury, Dan Quinn, Arthur Smith. I'm not saying that those are all home runs, but, I mean, they're good coaches, and all of them are having success right now. Ben Johnson's clearly the best OC in football. Arthur Smith's having great success with a small runaround quarterback named Russell Wilson. Who's that remind me of? I don't know, Caleb Williams, small runaround quarterback. Dan Quinn. Now we can also lump Cliff Kingsbury into that. They're both having success together in Washington. Obviously, Mike Vrabel and Bill Belichick, more household, well-known names that have been head coaches before, which would have been my route. Also, not to mention, and I even forgot to write this one down, how about Jim Harbaugh? How about Jim Harbaugh? He played for the Bears. He played for your franchise. You couldn't even get him to come home. That's how bad of an organization you are. And I'm sure if you would have made the call, now these are long shots, but I'm sure if you could have at least made the call to Lincoln Riley, to Kalen DeBoer, to Nick Saban. Now, I know all three of those would have been long shots or, a quote-unquote risky move, but I'm sure all three of them would have picked up the phone. I'm sure if you would have offered Nick Saban the right number, he'd have picked up the phone. I know Alabama's a big step up for Kalen DeBoer. How about taking another step up? You don't think he would have answered that call? I bet you $100 he would have. I bet you $100 he would have at least picked up the phone. And Lincoln Riley, give him another chance to stay with Caleb Williams and ascend with Caleb. He'd have picked up that phone. Look at him now. They're 4-6 at USC in the Big Ten. He'd have picked up that phone call. So now they're going to fire Eberflus, whether it's now or at the end of the year. And for the third quarterback in a row, they're going to give their young second-year quarterback an entire new staff. Now, I know Mitch Trubisky wasn't a world beater coming out of Carolina. They probably overdrafted him, given that, Mahomes and Deshaun Watson went later that draft. Now, Deshaun, obviously, now, that doesn't look like a good idea, but let's not forget Deshaun for the first 6 years was a lights-out quarterback. So, of course, the Mitch Trubisky, draft pick doesn't look great, but you barely gave him a shot. You knew you were going to be able to draft a quarterback. I think they were drafting second overall behind the Browns, who took Myles Garrett. You knew you were going to be able to get a quarterback, and you said, nope, give me John Fox was the coach at the time. And they said, we're going to stick with him. 1 year in, of course it looks like a disaster, like everybody could have predicted, and you bring in Matt Nagy. Now they have some success. Mitch Trubisky actually gets into a playoff game, the double doink, all that fun stuff. And then they say, we're going to move on from Mitch. He goes to Buffalo to sit for a year, and then, of course, to Pittsburgh. And they said, let's draft Justin Fields. And they knew going in, this coaching staff's a little uneasy, right? But no. We're going to stick with Matt Nagy, and we're going to give Justin Fields Matt Nagy. And then, of course, what happens? It's a disaster, like we all predicted, just like we predicted with John Fox. And, of course, you fire Matt Nagy, and you give him a new staff in year 2. Who's that new staff? Matt Eberflus. And right now, before the draft, you're sitting there and you're saying, we could get a generational prospect. Regardless, take your pick. You could have even said, maybe we like Jaden Daniels. That would have been your generational prospect. The first time that you've drafted number 1 overall in a long time, and ideally, the last time you're going to draft number 1 overall in a while. This is your chance to make a sweeping change. Go make a slam dunk hire. Go pay $15 million for Harbaugh. Go pay $20 million for Nick Saban. Go see if Bill Belichick will pick up the phone. Even if it's a 2-year, $50 million deal, just to turn the franchise around, just to get some stability in the room. And they said, we're going to stick with Matt Eberflus, who at the time was 0-14 on road games played on Sundays. 3-14 in road games in his career up to that point. All three of them were on in prime time against inferior, awful quarterbacks. Awful quarterbacks. At that time in his career, he had only won 10 games. 10 games in 2 years, and you said, that's our guy. And you want to know what the quarterbacks are that he beat? Trey Lance, Davis Mills, Mac Jones, Sam Howell, Brian freaking Hoyer, Bryce Young, Josh Dobbs, Taylor Heineke, and we'll give them an asterisk on 2 games, Jared Goff and Kyler Murray. Bravo, you beat 2 quarterbacks. 2. And you said, give me that guy for my young quarterback. That's good for his development. And you know who we're going to bring in for our young quarterback at OC? We're going to bring in Seattle scraps. Seattle fired their entire staff because it was an unmitigated disaster with Geno Smith. It was terrible. He regressed after you signed him, and you said, give me that OC. They went on and hired a college offensive coordinator over that guy. And you said, bring him in, and let's have him be our guiding light for a number 1 overall pick. It's an embarrassment of a franchise. It's an unmitigated disaster. We call Cleveland the mistake on the lake. I think that it's about damn time we switch that to Chicago. That entire franchise is a mistake. Hell, that entire city is a mistake. Go ahead and vote blue. Go ahead and vote for idiots because you run your franchise like an idiot. You run your city like idiots, and I'm not even surprised that Chicago can't figure out how the hell to run a football organization.
That's the Chicago Bears, everybody.
Oh my God, it fires me up because it's so frustrating because in football and pro sports, it's the only industry where the better you are in college, the worse situation you go to. Yeah. You act like I enjoy watching Sam Darnold go get eviscerated by Adam Gase. Yeah. You act like I like seeing people's career for the first 7 years of their career go down the shitter. Right? Nobody likes to watch Bryce Young struggle through his time in Carolina. I'm not saying he's great, but if you plopped him in San Francisco, would he have a chance? Absolutely he would. Absolutely he would. So yeah, it is so frustrating to see a kid who has a ton of talent, clearly cares. We could argue he even cares too much. If that's your argument, that's fine. I'd rather a guy care too much than not care at all. We have a guy who cares deeply about football, cares deeply about winning, has a ton of talent, can actually turn a franchise around, and you're going to give him this joke of a staff, and then you're going to fire him, which, again, I agree with the firing, but now you're compounding mistakes when we could have eliminated the mistake before the draft.
Yeah.
Before the draft. It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that 2 coaches on the market have already been with him in Cliff Kingsbury, and I know Lincoln wasn't on the market, but again, he'd have picked up the damn phone. The fact that both of them were with him in USC, they would have 100% wanted to go with him to Chicago. And you fucked it up.
Yeah. And the saying, the Browns will always brown, the Bears are always going to be the Bears. Like
they're always going to mess it up.
It's the top-down decisions that matter. That's what affects the play that you see on the field. It's the business decisions up top. Who are we keeping? Who is running our team? Who's going to be our coach? Those are the decisions that matter, and that you really see play out over the length of the season. Does not look good in Chicago.
No, awful.
All right, guys. Hits and misses up at you next. Let's go.
Oh God, I gotta like relax after that.
Yeah, you need to
I think I literally talked myself into more. I came in fiery.
Yeah.
I think I talked myself into a higher state of upsettedness, of anger than I even came in with. So
upsettedness, stick-to-itiveness. You got a lot of words.
A lot of you just add ness at the end of it. Whatever. Hit number 1 here. The Jets dropped to 3-6. I mean, we called this from the very beginning. I said I'm not sure the solution for an old injured team is to bring in old injured players, and then they doubled down on it at the deadline by going to get Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
It didn't make a ton of sense to me, and then obviously you fire the coach. The whole thing is abysmal.
What do you do from here?
I don't know. I mean, so they're 3-7. They're 1-4 under the interim, so that hasn't worked. So it's like they don't even have a glimmer of hope under the interim coach. I don't know. I guess my question to you is, screw this season. I don't think this season's salvageable at all. When are the Jets? When's the next time the Jets are actually in real life relevant in the NFL?
2 things have to happen. Well, more than 2 things, but these are the first 2 things that have to happen. You have to go find a real legitimate NFL head coach, just like you talked about in your rant. Don't pussyfoot around. Don't do this shit. Go find your guy.
Go get a Vrabel. Go get a,
Make a big signing. Then get rid of Aaron Rodgers. Say, hey, thanks, your time in New York has expired. Please go home. And then you trade up. You go find somebody in the draft.
Sure. Bring Sam Darnold back, huh? You look at it. Because you could get him on like a Baker Mayfield contract for like $30 million.
Just as a bridge guy while you find the guy.
Sure.
I wouldn't hate that.
Something. It's an idea. So the question is, when will the Jets ever be relevant? I'm going to say not for the next 5 years. I don't think the Jets are going to have a winning season in the next 5 years.
Okay, that's fair.
So
they're horrible.
They're bad, and there's not a lot of hope in the future. The ownership's bad, so that's not going to help either. Miss number 1 here. Mr. Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited.
They get another big win in Washington. Russ is now 3-0 as the starter. The team as a whole is 7-2. We doubted them at the beginning of the year. I said this would be the first year in a tone that they're under 500. Obviously, now they would have to go, 1-7 down the stretch for me to be accurate there. We don't foresee that happening. But I still personally view them as a crust below the true AFC contenders. Like, I would put... I think they're better than the Ravens. Barely, but better than the Ravens. I don't think they're better than Buffalo, and I don't think they're better than Kansas City.
So they're like 3 in the AFC.
I would put them I would say it's Buffalo and KC up top, and then I think that second tier, they start that second tier. Well, do you think they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender?
Not at the moment, but not to say they can't play their way into it for the rest of the season. They're in a really cool spot right now. They could either blow expectations out of the water or absolutely plummet back to earth. Like, they have the option here to say, we have the toughest back half of the schedule in the NFL. We are going to go rip off a bunch of wins, maybe lose 2 or 3 of them, but we're going to come out of it. We're going to be a pretty high seed going into the playoffs, and we're going to win a game and make it look pretty good. Or we're just going to get annihilated the back half of the season, and we're going to be the same old Pittsburgh Steelers we have always been.
I said this when the schedule came out, and everybody was freaking out about the second half of the year. I said, hold up, these teams, you have no idea what these teams are going to be like at the end of the year. Everyone's freaking out about Cincinnati. Well, they're 4-6. Freaking out about Cleveland. They're starting Jameis Winston in real NFL games, and they traded at the deadline. I think Philly has underwhelmed up to this point in the season. Their defense is bad. Now they're improving, but let's not act like Philly's a juggernaut.
Kansas City almost lost. They almost lost to Denver.
Granted, they're 9-0.
Almost lost to Denver.
I think if the game happened tomorrow, I think Pittsburgh would beat Kansas City. So, let's not act like the second half of the season is an absolute gauntlet they can't get through it.
That football is a half a yard to the left. The Denver Broncos win that football game.
Sure. Hey, number 2 here. Buffalo, we talked about them, obviously being in that top tier. They've basically all but locked up the AFC East. That to me is... It was obvious for me. You were high on Miami going into the year. Mm-hmm. I said, I will sell you my Miami stock and I will buy your Buffalo stock. And that has worked out to be a fantastic decision. They never feel like they're flashy so far this year, though.
No.
But despite that, do you think they're the biggest threat to Kansas City?
I think so, but it's like the inconsistency thing. So, like, if you catch them on one of their really, really good weeks, for sure. But if you catch them on one of the weeks where Josh Allen just looks like he has way too much weight on his shoulders, like nobody else is pulling their weight, you catch them on a week like that, I give it to Kansas City all day. But they are so streaky and so inconsistent where you could draw the card on the Buffalo game and they hang 45 on you, and you have no idea what just happened.
I absolutely love the fact that they haven't even fully integrated Amari Cooper yet. So, I think they're only going to get better. I think they're only going to get better. Missed number 2 here. I said this probably about 3 weeks ago. Look out for Colorado. I expected them at the beginning of the year. I said I think they're going to be another 4 or 5 win team. The Buffaloes and Deion Sanders. I thought they'd be a 4 or 5 win team. They're 7-2, and they are a BYU loss, or I'm sorry, an Iowa State loss away from being able to play in the Big 12 championship.
Which is ridiculous.
And if they win the Big 12 championship, they are a top 4 seed in the playoff, right? They are inching closer and closer to not only being, they're already in the discussion, they could be the discussion of college football if they make the Big 12 championship game.
Which is crazy.
I didn't expect it. I think right now, even if I needed a quarterback, I still think I would draft Travis Hunter number 1. Is he the best player in college football?
Yes. Yes,
I agree.
He is. I could not touch Shedeur Sanders if that's where this conversation is going.
To me, he's undraftable.
No,
he's undraftable. I'm talking purely Travis Hunter. Should he win the Heisman? And is he the best player in college football?
Yes, he should, and yes, he is.
I could not agree more. We'll table the Shedeur discussion for another time. Hit number 3 here. As predicted, almost predicted. I said, what did I say the Cowboys would go this year to start the year?
1-9 or
nope,
2-9.
I said 2-9. Now, granted, they've won 3 games, so 2-9 technically that's a miss there.
But 3-8 isn't out of question.
They're going to go 3-8. They're going to go 3-8. They're already 3-6. Obviously, they are sans Dak Prescott. He's hurt, probably out for the year. They can't win at home. I know it's Cooper Rush and Trey Lance, but you got to look at least viable at home, and they don't even look close to good. Kind of similar to the Jets question, is this fixable even long term? I know clearly this year it's probably not fixable. even long term, right? You have Dak locked up for $60-something million over the next couple years. CD's getting big money. You're going to have to pay Micah. I don't know how this is fixable unless you rip it to the studs and start over, but we know Jerry's not going to do it.
That's what you have to do, but he just keeps kicking the can down the road and kicking the can down the road. You can do that. That's fine, but you just have to be okay with the fact that you're not going to win anything. You're not winning in this league unless you are going out and making swings, making those cuts where you need to have them, and reshaping, rebuilding a team because you have effed it up so bad to this.
See, I think now the one thing, is it quote-unquote fixable? Depends what your term of fixable is. Can they get back to like 10 wins next year? Sure. Like, you could go hit on a second-round receiver, and you can go get a guard in the fourth round that are playable guys, and go get a DB in free agency, and be good. Right? I don't think anybody doubts that Dallas can get back to good again. I think everybody has doubts that they can ever get back to the pinnacle organization in the league like they used to be.
For sure. I mean, it's a real problem.
Miss number 3 here. Speaking of getting back to the top of the sport, the Bengals almost had it a couple years back, obviously losing the Super Bowl. It blows my mind how we can have 3 of probably the top 15 players in the NFL, right? You have Jamar Chase, you have Joe Burrow, and Trey Hendrickson, that edge rusher, is unbelievable.
Very good.
He is a top 3 to 4 edge rusher in football. He's probably a top 20 player in the game. How you can have 3 of the top 20 players and be so awful blows my mind. And none of them are hurt. None of them are playing bad. Burrow's probably 1, 2, or 3 in every statistical category that matters. Jamar Chase is number 1 in every category, and Trey Hendrickson's like number 2 or 3 in the league in sacks. So it's not even like they're playing poorly like Dallas, for example, who has Dak, CD, Micah, who are all good players, but they're not playing well, or one's hurt, or whatever.
Yeah.
They have 3 elite guys that are playing elite, and they still suck. How is that possible?
I don't know, but it's happening. Is it the Cincinnati curse? Is that what it is? It's just the Bengals can't win?
If by curse you mean a poorly run, poor franchise that's more comparable to the Bears and the Browns than their counterparts, the Steelers and the Ravens? Yeah. Absolutely, yes. Then it is a quote-unquote curse. I think it's one of the poorest run organizations in football.
I mean, it's right up there with Chicago.
It's absolutely... Short-term question, is it a playoff team this year?
Cincinnati?
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so either. I don't think you can be that bad on defense and make the playoffs.
You have to have some semblance. I mean, yes, it's an offensive league. You have to have an offensive-leaning coach, I would say. But, I mean, Tomlin's kind of an exception. You can do it defensively, but your defense has to be lights out.
Sure, and they're not. They're terrible.
No.
They're a sieve.
That's it. That's all of hits and misses there.
Yep.
Just all of them.
Let's actually transition to the top 10 NFL teams, post Week 10 going into Week 11 now?
Yeah.
So we're over the halfway point. Most teams have played 8 or 9 games now. I'm sorry, 9 or 10 games now. And so, yeah, we'll give you our top 10. We'll give you an honorable mention before we start here. Go ahead. So, honorable mention. I would say, now you could argue the order, but this is like 11 through 14. Texans, Vikings, Chargers, Rams. I feel like these teams, either whether I need to see a little bit more, whether that's the Rams or the Chargers, I just need to see 1 or 2 more weeks. Or if it's really good teams, but have been struggling as of late, the Vikings and the Texans. So they're on the outside looking in. You could argue order however you'd like. Okay, let's get into the top 10. Number 10. I have to give credit where credit's due, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I know I don't think very highly of the Jets, but if you can thump somebody 31-6 in the NFL, I'm giving you credit. To me, Jonathan Gannon deserves a ton of credit, their head coach. He, and rightfully so, got a lot of shit from that Super Bowl when he left Philadelphia, and they let up 38 to the Chiefs, and it was not a good game plan. He got a lot of shit for it. He's a really, really good coach. That defense plays hard for him. They play well. And you may have your misgivings about Kyler. There is no doubt that Kyler has been a top 7 quarterback this year in the NFL. He has been unbelievable.
I was going to say, I'm not a huge Kyler fan, but after watching this last week, oh my God. I mean, he looked unstoppable. Like they had no answer for him.
He plays like a little brother that stole the football from his older brother's like backyard football game, and he's running around and nobody can catch him.
Yeah,
that's how he plays the game, and it's so entertaining.
I saw one that said it looked like he stole his parents' phone.
Absolutely,
that's
that's exactly what he looks like. That's spot on. Number 9, the Packers. Now, they were obviously on a bye this week, and I know the last time we saw them, they lost to Detroit. A rainstorm, Jordan Love was banged up coming off injury. Like, I don't take a ton from that game. At the end of the day, I'm still getting a top 10 quarterback, a top 10 head coach, top 10 skill position players. The defense is much improved under Halfley. great skill position players. They got like 3 tight ends I like, 4 wide receivers I like,
they're really good.
2 good running backs. Like, that's a really good operation, a good team, offensive leaning, Packers at 9.
Yeah, I love that one. They're starting to feel like a viable force coming out of the North. I mean, like, because they've been kind of outshined by the Lions this year.
No, for sure. And the Lions are a better team, but so if the Packers are the number 7 seed, which they are right now, the 2 seed has to be shitting a brick. Like, that is the last team you want to see.
Yeah, you don't want to catch
the last team you want to see. Number 8, the Commanders. I don't want to drop them too much for losing to a really, really good Pittsburgh team in a tough, really close football game. Jaden Daniels is still really good, will win and should win Rookie of the Year. Viable defense. Dan Quinn's done a great job. They have good skill position guys, Terry McLaurin, Austin Eckler, etc. So
McLaurin's looking good.
Yeah, he's looking fantastic. And let's be real, they've looked really, really good up to this point in the year. Don't put too much stock into one loss.
That's fair.
Philadelphia on the flip side at number 7. I think right now, if these 2 teams played, the Commanders and the Eagles, I think the Eagles would win, and they actually play on Thursday, and we'll get to that in the second segment with predictions here in about 10 minutes. But I feel like I know what I'm getting a little bit more. I'm getting a more battle-tested team with Philly, right? They've been there. They've done that. Jalen and A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I feel like I'm getting... The Commanders are almost the Eagles from 3 years ago. A little bit too young for my liking. I think the Eagles are just a little bit better of a team peaking at the right time. They're on the ascend, while I think the Commanders are a little bit on the descend so far this year. So I would say Philadelphia is 7.
100% agree with that one. I mean, they're confusing me right now, though. Like, full transparency, I'm not sure if they fly up this list or if they just completely fall off.
Who, the Eagles?
They're at a tipping point.
I guess we're going to find out.
This is their last week either on the list, where they're at. They're either going to be way
they're
above
either
or way off.
They're going to be like number 3 or 4, or they're going to be like 13 or 14.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. San Francisco at number 6. That's another team just like Philly. They're starting to get healthy, right? Debo's healthy. Kittle's healthy. Christian McCaffrey's back. They're getting some guys back on defense. So San Francisco is a really, really talented team that's getting healthy at the right time. Brock's playing really well. I was a guy that came out and said, hey, Brock Purdy is being helped more by the crescendo of talent around him. He saved them in that fourth quarter against Tampa Bay. Make no mistake about it. Brock Purdy has solidified himself as a top 12 to 14 starting quarterback. I would pay him this offseason. Now, I wouldn't pay him 65 like Dak. I'd pay him 45, though, 50 maybe.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, he's been able to do it and get it done. And even though you have the weapons, you still have to be able to viably get the ball to them. There are a ton of quarterbacks in this league where I don't feel like that, and especially backups. So I wouldn't dare classify him in those category of guys. He's definitely playing better, and they're finally starting to feel like the 49ers. I feel like for the first couple weeks, I was like, okay, like they're not even winning the NFC.
Well, it sounds weird. They played poorly against Tampa and won, and to me that means a lot, right?
Yeah.
You got healthy, you're coming off a bye, and you still played like crap, but you won, right? You gutted it out.
Exactly.
Top 5 here. Number 5, the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I know that their defense is an absolute sieve, but is Lamar Jackson the best quarterback in football right now? There is a really strong argument for it. Fantastic. Derrick Henry should be in the discussion for Offensive Player of the Year. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. I do. So this is my team where you said Philly could drop off the list. This is my team. I think Baltimore could end up at 10 next week or 2 weeks from now. Losing Kyle Hamilton on the back end, I don't know how long he's going to be out for. That ankle injury didn't look good in that Thursday night game. If he's out, that defense is the worst defense in football. It's already the third worst defense in football. If he's out, they are absolutely, unequivocally the worst defense in football. And I don't think you could be a top 10 team with the dead last defense.
No. It makes it really tough. The Ravens, they're starting to spiral a little bit. I think this week against the Steelers will change things a little bit after the Steelers wallop them a little bit.
I just love Lamar so much. It's hard for me to fully bet against him, but the defense needs to play better. Number 4, the Steelers. They play this week, and we're going to talk about that. I think right now, today, the Steelers win that football game.
We're on the Pittsburgh side of that.
I think Pittsburgh wins that game. Look, I'm getting a stronger defense. I'm not getting a better quarterback play, but I'm getting good enough quarterback play. I'm getting better play out of my offensive line and all my weapons in Pittsburgh, absolutely. I'm getting a better coach. I'm getting a better offensive coordinator. To me, it's a no-brainer. Pittsburgh fundamentally has been better this year. Mm-hmm. Point blank end of story. So I'll take the more fundamental team at 4.
And it sounds weird to say, but they've been the better just overall team. Like, they feel more cohesive than the Ravens.
They feel more well-rounded, for sure.
I mean,
it's a way more well-rounded.
When they got the Commanders to jump on that fourth down, did you see the reaction from everybody on the field? Everybody wants to be there and wants to win games. It's just a different feeling in Pittsburgh this year.
I couldn't agree more. Let's go with the not a lot of movement here in the top three. Oh, actually, I don't think there's any movement here in the top three. Bills at number 3. Look, I told you I'm buying all the Bills stock. I still get a top 3 quarterback. Once Amari Cooper comes back, I get a top, we'll call 15 wide receiver. Other good weapons on the outside, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman when he comes back. 2 good tight ends I like. And the institutional, I think you're starting to see that, and I think that's been undervalued in football. The institutional greatness, right? From owner to GM to coach. I know you don't actually see the GM's impact on game day or the quarterback's coach impact on game day.
Oh, but it's there.
But you can just... There's a reason that the same teams draft at the draft every year. There's a reason that the Bills never draft above 20 every year. It's just the institutional, everyday, day in and day out greatness in Buffalo, number 3. And that I don't know if I want to call it yet. To me, that's my AFC team right there, are the Bills.
Too early to call? Too close to call?
I may go with the Bills.
Okay.
I may. Number 2 are the Lions. They can win. They can beat you in ugly. They can beat you over the top. They can run. Even Goff, when he throws 5 picks, they can still win. Their defense shows up in the second half when you need them. They may not be the best defense, but they show up when you need them. Detroit, to me, may be the most well-rounded team. The team that can beat you in the most amount of ways in football.
Now, you gave your pick. This is my pick, NFC.
You're going with Detroit?
The Lions will win the NFC this year.
Yeah, I don't think that's a super hot take. Actually, my hot take to win the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Really?
And I'm not an Eagles guy. You know I'm not an Eagles guy. You know I'm not a Nick Sirianni guy.
That's really
But that would be my pick to win the NFC today.
Okay.
Anyway, number 1, the Chiefs.
Is it a shock to anyone?
No, they're not playing great football right now, but I've said it from the very beginning. They won the Super Bowl last year, and they haven't lost since, I don't know, like Christmas of last year. So it's like, I until they lose, they're number 1. Sorry, not sorry. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, they are undefeated, so it would be a crime to take them off the number 1 spot. But they're getting close. I mean, that game did not look good by any stretch of the imagination.
But they won.
If it continues to look like that and they start to lose a little bit, you're going to see them slip.
Well, if they lose, for sure. We'll run back through it. Chiefs, Lions, Bills, Steelers, Ravens, Niners, Eagles, Commanders, Packers, and Cardinals to round out the top 10.
There it is.
Guys, don't go anywhere. We have our predictions on the other side of the break, as well as bets on a budget, hitting at 64% so far in 2024. Don't miss those bets. Welcome back in. It is the issue 14th now?
Yeah, the 14th.
Oh, God, the 14th of November. We are flying by NFL season. We just wrapped up Week 10. We have the Week 11 predictions coming up for you here in just a couple minutes, then bets on a budget. Before that, though, make sure you go like and subscribe and rate and review and comment and do all that fun stuff on all the platforms, whether that be Spotify or YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Amazon Prime Video or iHeart. However you found us, make sure that you give us some love on there. We certainly appreciate it. We appreciate you guys watching. And if you missed the first segment, go back, listen to that. We had our top 10 NFL teams. That was the highlight of that one. So
that was the highlight? Not Chicago being dismantled for about 10 straight minutes while you went on and on. Oh, my God. That's the highlight.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's the highlight.
Yeah, no, I got a little bit fired up about the Bears earlier and just how poorly run an organization can be.
A little bit. I mean, the thing that the viewers missed during that segment break was me misting you down with one of those fans that they hand you at Disneyland. It's like you missed it. And
so fired up.
Yeah, you put in like those 2 C batteries or whatever. It's like one of the only things that I know that takes C batteries still. That and like the random flashlight in the junk drawer.
Are the C batteries like the rectangular ones?
No, the C batteries are like the big, thick ones that are like, still cylindrical.
Okay.
But
sure, yeah.
But they're bigger and thicker,
Okay, yeah. All right.
Either way, we're going to grab this and put it right back on the rails. We're going to start with the Week 11 NFL predictions. Every pick for every game. Here we go.
Commanders at the Eagles here. I'm sorry. Is it at the Eagles? Yeah, at the Eagles. Commanders at the Eagles here Thursday night, as in tonight. I'm taking the Commanders. Now, I know I said that I think the Eagles are the better team when we did the top 10 NFL teams. I'm picking the upset here. I'm way behind in predictions. Now we're just throwing up Hail Marys at this point. I think you're going to get a pissed off team coming off a really tough loss against Pittsburgh, coming out inspired. I think Philly might be feeling themselves a little bit. I'll take the Commanders in an upset.
I mean, I see your side here. I'm erring on the more cautious side. I'm going with Philadelphia. I guess the safer pick, but I do see where the Commanders can kind of have an edge here. They're looking really good, and Jaden Daniels is playing really good football right now. Altogether, that organization is scary. I wouldn't want to see them on my schedule, but I'll take the Eagles.
Fair. Packers at the Bears. As quickly as I jumped on the Bears bandwagon, until they fire Matt Eberflus, I am off of it, and I'm taking the Packers.
Yeah, Packers here as well. Look, I just don't understand what Chicago does well right now. They don't do anything well?
They don't do anything well. They do nothing well right now.
Is there a facet of this game that you like in Chicago?
The defense is middle of the road. I would say they're good. They're average at defense, but they don't do anything good. They don't do anything well.
We'll take the Packers then.
Yeah. Rams at the Patriots. Same thing. I mean, what do the Patriots do very well?
No.
I mean, Drake May has been a decent little bright spot in the past couple of games. Like, he at least gives them hope for the future.
Yeah.
Right? I would go with the Rams, though. They're a better team today.
Yeah, the Rams are way better. Better coached. Just all around. Better fundamental football. I'll go Rams.
Browns at the Saints. Don't let the one Jameis Winston game cloud your memory, cloud your judgment of this football team. The Saints are a better team. They fired Dennis Allen. There was a clear energy in the room when they beat Atlanta that last week, which I called. Only one I did call. I will take the Saints once again. Interim coach still getting a little bit of a bump here at home. And it's weird, but Jameis struggled against the Saints when he played for Tampa Bay. A lot of turnover, not a ton of the same players, but I do still like the Saints to give Jameis trouble. I'll go with the Saints over the Browns.
Did I take the Browns here?
You did.
That's what I thought. I'm not sure what I was thinking, but I think that Browns team plays some inspired football sometimes.
There you go. You're going out on a limb there. Just
that's
one of those gut feelings.
Yeah,
sure.
When you said it earlier and we were going through the picks, I remember myself saying Browns, and then I was thinking about it here. I was like, what is my reasoning for the Browns? I'll take the Browns, though.
Fair enough. Raiders at the Dolphins. I'm getting a better quarterback. I'm getting a better coach. I'll go with the Dolphins.
Yeah, Dolphins. Ever since Tua came back, they seem to have found their way again. I didn't think that such a mediocre quarterback played such a pivotal role in a team, but...
Well, I mean, when your backups are Tyler Huntley and who was the other guy? I don't even remember. But besides the point, I don't like Anthony Pierce at all. I've come out on this, or Antonio Pierce. I've come out on this podcast multiple times saying that he should be fired. So I'll take the better coach, better quarterback.
Yep.
Jags at the Lions didn't take me much time. Lions.
Yeah, Lions as well.
Vikings at the Titans. Vikings are a better team as well. I'll take them going on the road to win.
Yep. There's nothing to look at in Tennessee. Will Levis is a disappointment. The offense in general is a disappointment.
The defense hasn't been awful, but yeah, no, not great. Not great.
No,
not great. Ravens at the Steelers. The hometown Steelers. It's in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Steelers all day long. Steelers all day long. I went to the Ravens game last year when it was in Pittsburgh. I thought the same thing. Oh, maybe the Ravens. Or I thought last year. What I normally think is that the Ravens are a better team than Pittsburgh as of late. Not the case at all. That was a different atmosphere in Pittsburgh. I'll take the Steelers.
Well, and the thing is, I don't know what it is. I know what it is. TJ Watt is fantastic. Lamar can never get anything going against us. Like, with his legs, he cannot get anywhere with that pass.
It's not a good matchup for him. It's not a good matchup.
Nope.
Colts at the Jets. I feel like I flip-flop weeks on the Jets. I'm like, I like them this week, and then they get crushed. And then I'm like, I'm going to fade them this week, and then they'll win. That's what I think is going to happen, but I'm still going to go with the Colts because I know I'm getting a better coach. Quarterbacks are both old dudes that can't move. I feel like I'm getting slightly better offensive line play in Indianapolis, which to me is huge. And the Jets can't stop the run, so I think Jonathan Taylor's going to have a big day. So yeah. I'll go with the Colts slightly.
Yeah, the Colts are... I just don't understand the disconnect. You have Joe Flacco, who will come in, look very, very solid, and then, I mean, we saw him this week, it was bad. Anthony Richardson is very... He's super inconsistent.
Yep.
The Jets team, though, they add want to say add a little bit more consistency, I'll take Aaron Rodgers and the Jets.
Sure, you're definitely getting a more talented receiving core and a talented quarterback. So I don't think it's a crazy
but
take.
at the end of the day,
and they're
it's
at
the
home.
Jets.
And they're at home. They've been good at home this year.
Sure,
so.
but I picked the Jets. It just doesn't feel good.
Well, you also picked the Falcons in this next game. Falcons at the Broncos, and we never bet the Falcons. And I'm not betting the Falcons. I'm going to go with the Broncos in a good bounce back spot here at home. Kirk Cousins and Mile High outside could get a little bit chilly. 4:05 window. It's going to finish under the lights. I'll go with the Broncos.
Okay, but the Falcons do have a pretty solid team.
No, it's a good team.
They run the ball well.
Sure.
They play
So do the Broncos.
pretty decent defense.
So do the Broncos. No, I know. It's going to be a good game. Actually, to be quite quite honest here, this is probably the best game in the 4:00 window that nobody's going to watch because the Chiefs and Bills are on. But that may be actually the closest game as the Falcons-Broncos.
It'll be a good one to flip to on Red Zone.
That may be the closest game. That's a good 4:05 window. Seahawks at the Niners, both taking the Niners.
Yeah, this one doesn't need much explanation either, does it?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Because this next one does. Chiefs at the Bills. God, what a 4:00 window.
That is nice.
I'm going to take the Bills, and hear me out. I'm going to take the Bills soundly. I am going to take the Bills 31-20, an 11-point victory at home versus the Chiefs.
11-point victory.
11-point victory. I have the Bills winning by 11. And I'm going against all statistics because Buffalo's favored by 2.5, and Mahomes as an underdog, like 4.5 or less, is just like automatic. He wins all of those. But I'm gonna take the outlier. I'm going with the Bills.
Okay, so let's unpack it. I do understand where you're coming from. The Chiefs have kind of looked a little bit shaky. They barely squeaked out a win against Denver. I don't love Kansas City in this spot. But at the same time, they're our number one team in the power rankings.
Sure.
It's
not like the Bills are that far back to 3.
It's Mahomes and Andy Reid. I just have to put my chips on Mahomes and Andy Reid at this point.
You're definitely not crazy. You're not crazy. You're abiding by the power rankings. You're abiding by the coach quarterback law. I'm breaking all of those rules, and I don't normally, so this is an outlier for me.
There you go.
I feel good about it. Bengals at the Chargers. Chargers, to me, I feel like I'm getting an actual consistent team and a defense that knows what they're doing, so I'll go with the Chargers.
An actual football team, a real-life football team that doesn't disappoint week in and week out, even when you put up crazy stats.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely. And then the Texans at the Cowboys. This looked like a good game preseason. Clearly not what it was cracked up to be. Now, keep an eye for this to be closer than you think for like the first 2.5, 3 quarters. But I think the Texans win.
Yeah.
I think the Texans win. But it's one of those like standalone Monday night game, like to CJ get a little tight on the road. On the road in primetime so far in his career, he hasn't been great. So I watch out for it to stay close for a little bit, but I still like the Texans by like 10.
Yeah, I'll take the Texans as well. This isn't anything. This is not a game that the Cowboys have any business winning at this point. They are a team devoid of talent, devoid of direction, and now without Dak, it looks even uglier somehow.
All right, Commanders. I'll take the Commanders. You're taking the Eagles. I'm taking the Saints. You're taking the Browns. I got Colts. You have Jets. I got Broncos and the Bills. You have the Falcons and the Chiefs, respectively. I got to have it this week. It's an absolute must-win.
Ton of splits this week. Wait, you have to win 5 of the next 7 weeks.
It's an absolute must-win. It's a must, and I feel this is the week to start a heater.
Yeah.
A 4-week heater right here.
There it is.
And then we'll lose, then we'll win, then we'll lose. All right, so bets on a budget here. Coming off of, took off last week, a 4-1 week the week before, 64% on the year. Let's get into it. Let's start with the hometown Pittsburgh Steelers getting 3 points at home. Mike Tomlin is one of the best underdog coaches in the history of the game, especially against the AFC, especially against the AFC North, and especially at home.
Yep.
Everything lines up. Underdog, divisional, at home. Everything lines up. I like Pittsburgh to win outright. I think it's still a very close game. I like a 26-24 Pittsburgh win over Baltimore.
Oh, you thought it was close against the Commanders. It's going to be real close here. Down to the wire, I'm predicting a last-second field goal from the legend of Boz to seal things up.
It's been a while since we've seen a last-second field goal from Boz. That would be great.
I know, and with how consistent he is, he deserves at least one.
He deserves one. Let's give him like a fringe difficult one, like a 44-yarder where it's like not a chip shot, not a chip shot, but it's an automatic for Boz.
Maybe going towards the open end even.
Ooh,
just give him something.
Stunning.
Yeah,
stunning.
I like this bet
that.
though. I like plus 3.
I'll take the Rams minus 4.5 at New England. They started slow in that Monday night game. New England's maybe feeling himself a little bit. Drake May, rookie. What they do well, though, in Los Angeles, they get a pass rush. Those rookies that Fisk and Verse that they got from Florida State, No, yeah, Verse and Fisk, and then they have Kobe Turner, the guy from Wake Forest from last year. So they have a lot of young guys in the defensive front that get after the quarterback. They're going to make Drake May uncomfortable. I like them to win by a touchdown. I'll go 27-20 Rams.
And all it takes here is just a little bit of discomfort for Drake May to just absolutely crumble, because the framework is not built around him for that team to be able to sustain him through any sort of hardships. There's no resiliency there. Yeah, I'll take the Rams plus 4.5. I like it.
We almost never do this.
Oh, no.
Detroit minus 13.5 against Jacksonville.
Yeah.
It gives me pause because Jacksonville's defense has been improved this year.
Yeah.
I just can't fathom Mac Jones putting up more than 10 points. And if you told me that Detroit's going to put up less than 24, I disagree. I think, to me, it feels very 31-10.
I mean, who's stopping Detroit? Who is stopping Detroit?
It feels very 31-10. That's what I'm going with.
With all the weapons in Detroit, who is stopping them? I don't think anybody is.
So many points for an NFL game, but we're going to do it.
I know, but it's the only one that kind of jumped off the page to me.
That's true. That's fair. This is one where I looked at you and I said, how, I can't say that on the air, but how crazy do you want to get with these bets? How uncomfortable do you want to get?
How slutty do you want to get with these bets? Yeah.
Tennessee plus 6 versus Minnesota. Yeah. Nobody wants to touch Tennessee. They're not a good football team. Will Levis is bad. The defense has been much, much improved. They get a bit of a pass rush. We know the DBs, they're not bad. They got Snead from Kansas City this past year. That's a team that can actually compete a little bit. And we know Sam Darnold has now declined for the last 3 to 4 weeks. I'm not saying Tennessee's winning, and I'm saying it's barely a cover. It feels very, 21-16 type of game. Very field goal forward, scrappy, a lot of stuff between the 20s, a lot of field goals. I'm going to go Tennessee to cover the 6 in a close game versus Minnesota.
And they're at home.
We do like home dogs. Home dogs have been hitting a lot this year.
Yeah, especially Nashville home dogs.
Is that true?
No.
Okay.
But it's going to be this week.
Let's just say it and let's just speak it into existence.
Yep.
Chargers minus 1.5 versus Cincinnati. This is basically a pick'em, so if you just like the Chargers to win outright, do we really think this is a 1-point game? What are the odds of that happening? I'm going to take those odds. It does feel like a 3-point game to me. It's going to be tight. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going to go 27-24 Chargers.
Yeah, I'm riding right there with you. The Bengals just give me no hope. When I look, I don't know what to think. Because you can't even rely on the fact of, maybe they'll have a breakout game. Maybe the Stars will perform. Maybe they'll put up a ton of yards. Well, they have, and they've lost.
Yep.
So, especially against a Chargers team who actually looks like they have very good foundations to at least not make a run, but to be a very viable football team.
I don't think you're crazy. Good offensive line, top 10 quarterback, playing like a top 5 quarterback this year. Good run game, good head coach situationally. Defense is much improved. They're allowing the least amount of points in football, so I don't think you're crazy at all.
Once again, it's just a little bit of a consistency thing. Like I'm not sure if I trust them week in, week out, but I trust them more than the Bengals.
I couldn't agree more. All right, we're going to go Pittsburgh plus 3, the Rams minus 4.5, Detroit minus 13.5. Good Lord. Tennessee plus 6, and the Chargers minus 1.5. Those are the bets on a budget coming off, again, a 4-1 week in week 9, 64% for the year. Send it to your friends. Tell them to back us as well. Little squad ride.
I was going to say, we hit 64%, and we really just said, fuck it, we're going all in.
We're going all in. Screw it.
When we start taking 13 points, that's how you know something is.
And start betting. I'm surprised we didn't have Atlanta in this one. If we're really saying screw it, we're betting the Titans. Might as well bet Atlanta. Good Lord.
Oh, God. Guys, that's all we have for you here today. That was episode 250 of the Issue Podcast. We appreciate it. You being here with us every step of the way. Make sure you go follow, like, everywhere that we are, social media. TheIssueSports.com will get you there. But, guys, we will be back next week, episode 251 on the docket. Review Week 11, predict Week 12, and that was The Issue.